right, hi everybody. We are going to learn how to copy and paste things and how to make mirror images of shapes. And I'm going to just do this little brief video on how to just use symmetry in your design and how Adobe Illustrator can help us with that. Okay, so if you're watching this video, hopefully you've watched the first two videos in my series, and now you have a basic understanding on how to create different types of shapes. Now we're going to take that and we're going to apply it and make a cool design. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start by just creating a rectangle like so in the top left corner of my screen, and I've added some color just to make it look slightly interesting. Okay, and you know what, I'm going to tilt it a little bit just so I can illustrate what symmetry is and how to create symmetry. Okay, so when I do that, I've got a little angled rectangle. Now what I want to do is I want to copy this. I want to make a mirror image of it. There's a couple ways to copy, but the easiest way to copy, and this is what I always recommend everybody do, is you just take your selection tool, hover it over your shape that you'd like to copy, and then just hold Alt, the Alt button. When you do that, you can see my cursor changes to two little copy cursors. Hold Alt, and then just click and drag off of that shape, and you will get a second shape, just like that. So now, that's how you can copy. You can hold Alt and just do it infinitely like this if you want to. See that? Or you can just, not do that. Okay, so anyway, holding Alt while selecting, clicking and dragging is going to allow you to do that. Now, what we see here is I've got a copy of my image here. And if I move this around, you can see there's these little guidelines that pop up. See that? Like that? That's showing me the midpoint of my screen. It's going to allow me to line things up like so. These little things will help you align stuff. And we want to use these guidelines to our benefit, because we want to make sure that whatever we make in this class, it looks very clean and well organized and nicely done. So anyway, I've got these two shapes here. So when I look at these are not symmetrical. They are mirror images, but this is not exactly symmetry. Symmetry, as I've explained in class, symmetry is more like butterfly wings, for instance. So like my hands right now are symmetrical. The way you can think about symmetry is if you were to imaginarily fold the design in half, would it match up exactly like that? So if I were to fold this in half, it would not match up. So what we need to do here is we need to take one of these items and flip it the reverse direction. So the quick way to do that is very easy. You just select the item like this. Notice how I have it selected. Go up to Object, Transform, Reflect. All right, so you just go to Object, Transform, Reflect. And when you do that, it'll tell you whether you're going to flip it, which direction you want to reflect it. So in this case, I want to flip it vertically. So that's going to, flip it this way as opposed to flipping it up and down. When I flip it this way, you'll see that it flips like so. And now you can see that is actually symmetrical. It looks almost like eyes or something. You'll notice that as we go a little bit deeper into making a cool symmetrical design, it's going to look like an ink blot test. A lot of them will look kind of like faces. It's just symmetry in general is a really, really useful way to make a compelling design. So I've got these two items. I can click and drag over both of them like so, and I can move them around in unison. It's good you see how the program is helping me line it up with the center there. We want to get it centered on our paper, whatever we're going to design, and we can just continue from there. So you can, if you wanted to create a symmetrical design, and in my class, I'm asking for this assignment, I want you to have at least 20 shapes. I want you to make something that's unique and interesting. So I've got, kind of looks neat, right? So then I've made a shape. I'm going to hold Alt again and drag it on over, and it should line it up with exactly how the other one looks like that. That's looking pretty good. But one thing that I want to show you is another way to do this, and that is you can just work on one half of your design. You can make something really unique and interesting. I'll just go pretty quickly here. Let's just make something that's very strange and weird and something that would be kind of hard to replicate exactly. Let's change this polygon tool. A couple triangles or something. And then with my white arrow, I'm going to, click and drag and make things very strange looking. Okay, so right now it just doesn't look particularly good, as you can see, it doesn't look very interesting at all. It just looks like a mess. But here's the beauty of symmetry, is when you make a symmetrical design, no matter what kind of chaos you have on one side, this is why ink blot tests are so interesting to look at. whatever kind of chaos you've got on one side, it might look like absolute garbage at first, like this kind of does. And I'm going to delete this part here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. As I'm creating these weird shapes and designs, I'm keeping in mind color scheme right now, which you certainly don't have to do. You can make any kind of color scheme you want. You can make it any kind of color you want. But this is just me showing you that you can make a really random, strange design like I'm making right now. Bear with me for a moment. And I'm going to show you this really cool way to copy it all at the same time. So there we go. Why don't I add just like one more little shape right there? Okay. Now that right there doesn't look particularly interesting. Let me jam it down a little bit here. Excuse me. Like that. Okay. This right here doesn't look particularly good, but watch what happens when we employ symmetry. Symmetry is a very key element in graphic design, and you will see why. So this is just nonsense. So what I'm going to do from this is if I click and select everything, so I click and drag over everything with my black arrow, every single thing that I've got, and then I hold Alt. Now it's key when you do this. A lot of times people will select within this bounding box here, and if you don't touch anything, the bounding box will go away. You see that? So even if you have multiple things selected, you still have to put your cursor over an item within the selection. So if I just put it right here, I can hold Alt. When I do that, it will take everything that's selected, it'll copy it all. So I can move it on over like this, trying to keep it aligned, like that. And then I can go Object, Transform, Reflect, and then I took that random smattering of colors or of shapes, and I can create something that through symmetry. And so now I kind of threw it off center there because I wanted to get it a little closer to make it look nicer. But if you click and drag over it like so, through symmetry or through symmetrical design, you can, and let's get it centered in the paper. There we go. When it's centered in the page, meaning left and right, the margins are the same. I've got this kind of cool looking, modern art thing. It's not that cool, but it's something to go with. Another thing that you can consider while you are creating your symmetrical design is this: the center line in between the two pieces. Actually, I think I might not have it perfectly centered. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The center line is a point in which you can, as long as everything is the same on either side, then it's still symmetrical. What I mean by that is this: if I make let's just say I make a giant circle. All right. I want to put it in the background. Get it aligned like so. See how I've got it aligned in the center? It's not quite symmetrical. There we go. That looks pretty symmetrical. If I change the color of it, like so, something like this. Right now it's kind of ruined my design, but if I go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, as I showed in video number 1, you can do that, and look at that. I've created, that's still symmetrical because it's a circle. So it's still, if you were to fold it, it would always match up on both sides. So then I can, like, now I'm just thinking out loud here. What if I can, start adding some other elements to my design? Like, I don't know, like that, and like that, and like that. Okay. Now I've got, this is not symmetrical because I don't have these 3 little yellow circles on my side like I did a moment ago, or excuse me, like everything else is. And I want to get these 3 circles over here. I'm going to show you another little trick. So if I try to click and drag over it and copy it, it's going to select everything. So that's no good, right? So what I only want these 3 items, right? So if I click an item, then I hold Shift and then click another item, it'll join that selection. And then I can hold Shift and click a 3rd item. And so now the only items that are selected are the ones that I clicked while holding Shift. So it's a way to select random pieces throughout your piece of artwork without necessarily selecting stuff that you don't want to. If you hold Shift and click multiple items, it'll allow you some precision while you're trying to select multiple things. So now that I have those 3 items selected, I can hold Alt, move them over here like this, like we've been doing, trying to keep them somewhat aligned, like so. And then I can go Object, Transform, Reflect, as I was showing you a moment ago. Hit OK. And now they're not exactly lined up, but I can actually use my arrow keys on my keyboard to move them to get them to be properly lined up. So I think that looks right. Yeah, there we go. So there, I've got a nice little design here. It's nonsense. It doesn't mean much. I don't really know what it was, but there's a cool way to do it. And the final thing I want to show you before I cut out here is this. If you want to make your background not white, there's not really a way, like in some of the art software you may have played with, there's not really a way to do like a fill bucket in Illustrator. You can't just click on it and say you want it to be black. What you can do is this. If you select your rectangle tool like this, let me zoom out just briefly, and then you can make a gigantic rectangle. So just put your cursor right in the corner. It'll lock up. It'll turn it like kind of purple like that when you're in the right spot. That's the guidelines telling you where you are. Click and drag open a shape, and it will help you do it on the other side as well. It'll lock it in for you like that. You know, you can change the color to whatever you'd like. Maybe we take off the fill like that, or the stroke rather. And so now what I have, one big black rectangle. As you all know now, by now, hopefully, this is not, I didn't ruin anything. This is just in front of all my artwork. So what I want to do now is I just want to send it to the back. So if I go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, it'll go back behind all of my work. And so right here, I've got, let's see if I have enough. I was just randomly creating this. I don't know if I have enough for our assignment, which is 20 pieces. Let's check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I've created enough here that would be a bare minimum for this assignment. So I think it looks kind of cool. I've always advised people when they're trying to create something like this, maybe have a plan in mind, like not like mine was just kind of random ink blot test looking stuff. But if you wanted to make something that was more, I don't know, I've had people try to create like cityscapes or like a forest or like a face. If you look at, try to think of like SpongeBob directly online or whatever, trying to make it look symmetrical, that might be a little more fun for you. But the bare minimum is just create like a cool design like this. And then the thing that I'm going to be grading closely, if you're in my class, obviously, if you're just watching this to learn how to use the program, you can ignore this. But the key that we want to really focus on with graphic design is we want to use the software to the best of our ability to create really clean, straight lines or designs. We want everything to look like it's done in a computer and not just like, smattered about. So I'm going to be focusing when I'm grading, I'm going to be focusing a lot on precision. So make sure you go slow, click and drag, and make sure that you're letting the guidelines of letting the software help you align things. Okay. So that's kind of how you do symmetrical design. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, like always, just let me know. All right, guys. See ya.